Senior levels of government appear set to announce more than $1 million for the third phase of the Thunder Bay's proposed events center. A formal announcement has not been made, but city staff are confident recently submitted funding applications will be successful. Both FedNor and the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund are expected to provide a little more than $577,000. City Manager Tim Camiso says the funding will help take the design of the facility to the next step beyond the conceptual phase. Environmental engineering and soil tests will also be conducted on the North Core site. Camiso says the business plan will also be updated now that a potential partner has been found. The city and the consortium known as Thunder Bay Live will work on hammering out how many events there could be and when. The city will contribute $465,000 to the project's funding that was approved in the 2013 budget.
The list of those seeking public office in the 2014 municipal election continues to grow. McKellar Ward incumbent Paul Pugh has decided he'll seek re-election. So far, he's the only candidate to register for the ward. He took 65% of the vote there in 2010. In Current River, Andy Wolf has put his name forward. This is his second time running. And a challenger to West Fort incumbent Joe Verderamo has come forward as John Rattle has submitted his papers. Election day is Monday, October 27th.
Earth Care Thunder Bay is asking city residents what they want to see happen in Thunder Bay in the future. 2 open forums were hosted at the community auditorium to help plan out the next 6 years of sustainability in the city. Mike Albanese has the story.
Earth Care Thunder Bay accomplished many of the goals from its 2008 Community Environmental Action Plan. It's been 6 years since then, and they are looking to renew their plans. 2 forums today involving the community and young people are aimed at building a new plan that Thunder Bay can be proud of.
It's our blueprint document for a livable community. That essentially is, we've really worked hard on that plan, and now it's time for renewing it. We've accomplished a lot in that plan, and so this is a chance now to set our gaze on 2020. What are we pushing for? What do we really need? What do we really want in this community in terms of sustainability and livability?
Some things they plan on pushing for are energy efficiency, greener buildings, land use, and mobility. The draft version of the plan was released today, but nothing is written in stone. The goal is to have current community members put their personal touch on the draft before it becomes a master and heads to City Council. They also want to involve the youth of Thunder Bay, since they will be the ones directly affected in the future.
We have to hear from the youth. It's their future, so it's important that they come to a forum such as this today to be able to express their opinion. That opinion is very valuable as to what direction we will then take the whole Earth Care sustainability plan in the future.
Jasmine Foley was one of the over 130 students from high schools and post-secondary schools attending the afternoon part of the event. In her mind, the youth of today barely know what to do when they graduate school, let alone what will be good for their city in 6 years. So she believes the involvement of youth is just the spark they need.
I believe it's a great opportunity for students my age to voice their opinions on what they believe Thunder Bay should look like in the future and how sustainability can impact the future for my generation.
The new master plan is to be presented to council sometime in the spring. Mike Albanese, TBT News.
Thunder Bay Police are investigating another robbery in the city. This one took place just before 9 o'clock last evening at the Movie Network outlet on Brown Street. Police say a lone male entered the store, demanded money from the clerk, then left with a small amount of cash. The man was unarmed and the store employee wasn't hurt. Police also say they know the identity of the person responsible.
Police are looking for the driver of a red pickup truck involved in a collision yesterday afternoon around 3:30 at the Clarkson and Windsor Street intersection. They say a van came into contact with the truck, and while the 2 drivers stopped and talked, no information was exchanged. Police say any collision that results in over $1,000 damage or an injury to a person must be reported.
A group of NDP members of Parliament left today on a tour of the Ring of Fire. They say the development represents a huge opportunity, not just for the Northwest, but for all of Canada. And they're pushing the Harper government to take a stronger leadership role in the project. Last night, the group held an open house in the city in advance of their tour. Dennis Ward was there.
Members of the federal NDP started their Ring of Fire tour in Thunder Bay. They met with the Matawa Tribal Council on Thursday prior to holding a town hall meeting. For the 6 opposition critics, this trip will take them as far north as they've ever been. John Rafferty says the goal is to speak to as many different groups as possible, and that's already been happening.
We've heard a number of things so far from various groups. Business, for example, is saying, we need the federal government to backstop some kind of transportation route, some kind of road or railroad or something like that.
Nickel Belt MP Claude Gravel feels the Ring of Fire is both a provincial and federal matter. He chairs the federal opposition's mining caucus and feels the development needs to get back on track.
We have to decide, first of all, is it going to be a road? Is it going to be a railroad? How are we going to develop it? We have to make a plan for the whole region. We have to make a major plan, and from that major plan we have to develop smaller plans for the First Nations and the communities.
The federal politicians will be joined by provincial NDP MPP Michael Mantha. He's visited communities and mining camps in the far north before. It was difficult for him as a father to see the conditions people are living in.
When they hear Ring of Fire, they also think about housing, they also think about education, they also think about healthcare. So these are very much connected. It's a very large puzzle, and each one of these small pieces has a place, and it's to make sure that we're going to do this properly.
Mantha feels both levels of government have a role to play in helping the Ring of Fire develop, but he says the province must take the lead and believes things have stalled because the province put all of its eggs in one basket with Cliffs Natural Resources. Dennis Ward, TBT News.
Unifor has chosen Resolute Forest Products as the lead company for this year's contract talks with the Eastern Canadian pulp and paper industry. Negotiations with Resolute will help establish a pattern agreement for some 10,000 Unifor members at companies across the sector. The union says its priorities will be economic improvements, including benefits and job security enhancements. Unifor will also be seeking cooperation from the industry in its campaign for a national forestry policy. Negotiations with Resolute will begin in mid-March.
A year's worth of research from the Northwest medical community went on display today. Over 150 students, technicians, physicians, and presenters were all in attendance at this year's annual Showcase of Health Research hosted by St. Joseph's Care Group. And as Rochelle El-Soufi reports, the projects presented aim to make a difference in the health of Northwestern Ontarians.
Dr. Jack Haggerty, a psychiatrist at St. Joseph's Care Group, is one of the presenters at the Showcase of Health Research. He says during his 13-year examination of mental health care patients, he has made a unique finding.
People with a lot of physical complaints actually get better, even though that's not the area of focus for mental health counseling usually. Depression, anxiety symptoms improve. And the last area of focus is on those that present with work and mental illness issues. And we found that people that have work problems tend to be more likely males, as well as having more severe symptoms of these same symptoms or disorders, depression and anxiety.
Dr. Michelle Medard, the scientific director at St. Joseph's Care Group, says there's a lot of cutting-edge new research.
Things are more relevant to the Northwest, for example. So I think there's a regional flavor to what some of the people are doing. But I think what you see is a lot of new work that eventually ends up being published in the scientific literature and health-related journals. So there's a lot of exciting stuff going on.
Dr. Haggerty says learning about other health research projects and discussing them with other people in the same medical research field is a great opportunity.
These small pockets can be really influential to build a local voice in research. So I think it allows a consolidation of common thinking people, asking good questions and coming up with some findings that are relevant.
Healthcare research is currently very vibrant in Thunder Bay. More and more research is being done throughout the city at universities, hospitals, and healthcare facilities.
The showcase has increased in presentations and attendees as healthcare research grows across the region. This was also the first time organizers allowed a small group of high school students to attend, perhaps opening the doors for future researchers. Rochelle El-Soufi, TBT News.
A new effort to heal the rift with our First Nations community took flight last evening. Walk a Mile is a documentary film series that explores the many faces of racism. Producer Rochelle Desrosiers says it's hoped the series will spark a conversation in the community on the issue. A large crowd turned out at the community auditorium for the premiere of the production. Phil Darlington reports.
Without any idea of what the turnout would be like, the Walk a Mile documentary series pulled in a large crowd to the auditorium. And after the opening remarks from the film's creator, the mayor, and other people associated with the production, the lights dimmed. filmmaker Michelle DeRosier was very excited by the turnout and feels that this event is a turning point for Thunder Bay.
A lot of the people, whether they're sponsors or they've participated in it, they're really excited. But more so, I mean, I think that they're excited because this is something that's going to allow us to really have, courageous conversations in this community.
What I've heard over and over is people recognizing the need for this kind of thing as a tool that they can use in their workplaces, in their schools and organizations. We hope from here that the community engages with these films and we see them in use across the community and that they start the conversations that we're hoping they will.
The conversations will include topics of understanding, acceptance, and racism. The first of those discussions will take place right after the films have concluded.
We're probably going to go, the films, because I've added the extra one, so there's 5 films now as opposed to the 4 that I originally started out with. So it's gonna take us a little bit further, about 10-15 minutes over. But I've talked to the auditorium and they've given us more time for discussion.
That will be an open mic discussion for the audience. Yolanda Wanakamic from Lakehead University will help moderate the discussion, and both Hannum and DeRosier will answer questions and discuss issues with the attendees. Phil Darlington, TBT News.
It's an exciting time for Thunder Bay screenwriter Ryan Lavia. Lavia's short film script, Red Light, has been chosen to be part of the 50 Kisses film project being hosted by well-known producer Chris Jones in London, England. Over 2,000 scripts were submitted for the competition, from which 50 winners were selected. Each script, which could be no more than 2 pages long, had to contain a kiss and take place on Valentine's Day. The 50 winning entries are being compiled into one 90-minute film. Winning scripts were given to producers around the world to be filmed. In the case of Red Light, 4 versions were produced.
The one in Australia, one in California. I had actually produced one here. And then the one that is actually entered into the finished 90-minute movie was produced in London itself. Basically, my short script was titled Red Light, and it's just simple, basically about 2 people who meet at a red light and show interest in one another with a kind of surprise ending.
Lavia will be in London for next week's premiere of the final 50 Kisses product. It will be his first chance to meet those who have prepared his script for the big screen.
The Bearskin Airlines 18th Annual Hope Classic Bonspiel hit the ice this afternoon. The weekend event is one of Thunder Bay's biggest fundraisers. The Bonspiel usually runs on Family Day weekend. This year, in an effort to bring in a larger crowd of young women, it was decided to hold it earlier. Last year's event attracted 50 teams and brought in around $177,000 in pledges. This year, 48 teams have signed up. The event runs until Sunday and to date has brought $2.4 million for the Linda Buchan Center through the Northern Cancer Fund.